Hello and good evening. This is Tiger, and I almost missed my cue today. So thank you, CD Radar, for reminding us. Thank you, AJ, for the good evening. And yes, I am back on my chair or in my chair, and the game is booting up. We are going back to the Fife Circle Line. We're going back to Scotland. Super Paul 5000. Good evening to you. And we are having a look at the Leven branch, the mysterious Leven branch that was added to this DLC, and it was not only added to this DLC last year, but it was added to the real world railway line as well. And well, we are going to run a line coming from there. Did I turn off the sound for the game, or what is happening here? Was the game annoying me and I turned off the sound? I did. Now I should have some sound back. Yes, Spectre, good evening to you as well. So nice to see you guys on the stream. And yeah, Leven to Edinburgh Waverley, and with a short presentation covering the development of the major railway lines in Fife, and why it is so cool that they reopened the Leven branch last year, actually, as I was able to find out in the meantime that it actually has already been opened for half a year now. And well, let's not lose too much time and jump into our class 170 Turbostar. Let's hope that the game does not kick me out if I'm looking for a Leven service. And what did I... Ravens Lofty! Hi to you, and you subscribed again, and you have been subscribed for 5 months. Thank you so much for the support. No Scottish accent today. Well, I don't want to insult anyone who actually can speak with such a beautiful Scottish accent, but I will try to well, I'll try my best. I can't help you with Scots, unfortunately, says Ravens Lofty. Well, yeah, I actually meant to ask you whether you can tell me how one or the other name is actually pronounced properly. So which one did I want to take? 1613, that's what I said that I want to play, and we're starting right away in Leven. As soon as we get to this one town on the Fife Peninsula between Leven and Anstruther, then you can tell me how this is pronounced. King Conquer or Keyuchar or something like this. It is actually quite mysterious to me how you can get those sounds that I've heard somewhere in connection with how this town is spelled. So, before we actually start, I just start this service and look around with the camera where we actually are.
Edinburgh Waverley. Calling at Cameron Bridge, Kirkcaldy, Kinghorn, Burnt Island, Aberdour, Dalgety Bay, Inverkeithing, North Queensferry, Dalmeny, Edinburgh Gateway, Haymarket, Edinburgh Waverley. If you see something that doesn't look right, speak to staff or text the British Transport Police on 61016. We'll sort it. See it, say it, sorted.
Yes, that is what you get to hear if you're starting the train. And actually, here is our station, the Leven station at the River Leven, and it is called Levenmouth Rail Link because this is where the River Leven flows into the sea, into the Firth of Forth maybe still, and then the North Sea. And we can see we have two lines here, two bay platforms more or less, because they both end at a buffer stop. And then you can switch from one to the other, and then you have a double line here. One crossover, only in one direction, and if you're going on, you will get to, here's the other part of the crossover, and then it's very quiet. Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have maybe gotten up and moved into the passenger compartment, but for that I had to fix my audio just in a bit because I was not getting any sound on my headphones. I'm always thinking if you're playing as a guard you get more. So this is the Leven branch, still building around here, and then there is a part where you get to this station here, completely built anew. Not even the collectibles are collected. Cameron Bridge for the Levenmouth Rail Link. And as soon as you get closer to the main line at Thornton Junction, it will become a one-track line somewhere around here. And then we just merge with the line that comes from Kirkcaldy and goes north to Mark Inch in our DLC, in real life to Perth or Dundee. It's actually quite long until the two lanes merge. I just thought we can do a quick flyover over the whole Leven branch. But it's actually longer than I expected in a flyover. All the signals are at yellow, interestingly. None of them is red. It's a track circuit based. Here's a red one. Before we actually go into the single track part. And here's the single track part. Fence is a bit crooked. And then here is the line coming from Mark Inch and going to Kirkcaldy. At the same time here branching off to Glenrothes. And this is the line that we did not come in anymore because we stopped at Kirkcaldy last time. And this is then the line that we already know. Okay. So, just go back into our class 170 and restart the whole service. One niggle is that from what I have seen, the timetable has stopping times at the station of exactly 30 seconds. So if you look at the time that you're supposed to arrive and the time that you are supposed to depart, it is a spacing of 30 seconds, while the passenger loading cycle lasts 60 seconds. At least this was on the service that I played last time. And this obviously adds at least 30 seconds at every station on top, so that you are most inadvertently late.
To Edinburgh Waverley. Calling at Cameron Bridge, Kirkcaldy, Kinghorn, Burnt Island, Aberdour, Dalgety Bay, Inverkeithing, North Queensferry, Dalmeny, Edinburgh Gateway, Haymarket, Edinburgh Waverley. If you see something that doesn't look right, speak to staff or text the British Transport Police on 61016. We'll sort it. See it, say it, sort it.
Okay, the DST works. Vigilance-DSD only works if you are not in neutral. As soon as you got the reverser in neutral, you won't hear the beeping. Platform is on the right. Actually, I should switch this around, but nevertheless. 30 seconds before departure time, we should start closing the doors. And then, when starting the Turbostar, I think it is always a good idea. Signal is green. Platform, signal, and action. Releasing the brakes and then use the hill start brake, because it sometimes takes a bit for the train to build up power. As soon as you hear the engines, let go of the hill start brake for 5, and then we can go properly. Otherwise, in an incline, train is very likely to roll backwards because it takes some time to build up power. I think it's a 20 as long as we are here at the station. Is it true? 25 even, if I saw that correctly. But soon enough we will have passed 25 it is. And now we can accelerate to 45. We have to stop at Cameron Bridge. Because if we wouldn't stop at Cameron Bridge, who else would? If we did not stop at Cameron Bridge, who would? That's the idea. There's actually no other train than this service working this line, two stations. But actually a double track. So that you can have more than one unit working at the same time. Seems we're going up a slight incline.
We'll soon arrive at Cameron Bridge. Don't forget to take your belongings with you before you leave the train.
Maybe I can get a bit louder. Spectators love that scenery, would love to visit Scotland and or New England and the Rosa. Thank you for nothing, Trains World. Yeah. I've actually been to Scotland once and I would go again. I've never been to New England and I would love to visit it. And the Rosa. I've never been to a Rosa. A Rosa is probably the closest and easiest to get there. Maybe I switch around my external cameras because I want to be just one keystroke away. So, and now we have 12 minutes to get to Kirkcaldy. Unfortunately, I did never go by train when I was in Scotland. We got there by plane to Edinburgh and then 1 week around in a rental car. So there was no opportunity to use a train. So I picked a service that should get us into the setting sun. And here's the first instance of the sun. Well, not surprisingly, we have to run uphill a bit when we're going inland from the mouth of the river Leven. Yes, and this rail link here now connects the Levenmouth area, which is quite a big conurbation that had to live without a rail link for quite some time. We will see in the presentation that it has been more than 50 years that there were no passenger services connecting Leven and Cameron Bridge with the rest of the grid. Why is my FPS so bad? Is it the sun? Maybe. What happened now? Predict with channel points. Will Tiger run a red line? What the hell is going up there? I think I am probably not entitled to participate. Bernie, oh my god, it's been a while. Nice to see you. So, and we have still a 45, and we can go 45 across this switch, even though it felt a bit bumpy, yeah, when we went across the switch here. And we can still go 45 until we get to the area where we are merging into the junction, and then we have to slow down to 25. Will Tiger run a red light today? Predict with channel points. I've never seen this before. And unfortunately I cannot say. I cannot see which one is yes and which one is no. It's already 0 versus 60 points. So I guess the right one, then the one with 60 is the yes. At least it already got me to speed across the junction here, because I was reading stuff instead of looking out of my window. Don't forget to vote so you can win tiger paws. Oh, cool. Define a red light. One that spats. Yes, I guess. As soon as the spat message appears on the screen, then I ran a red light. As far as this prediction goes, I guess. So, and now we are on the main line. There's the train from Kirkcaldy coming up. But oh my god, is my FPS bad. No, it looks even worse than it is. It is not great, but... maybe I'm imagining this. Now he wants to go all in with 10k points. I don't know, all you can win is probably what you put in the pot. So we're still accelerating because we are still not... it's twice as Perny. Alright. It's already 3.k versus 0. And I can't see which one is which. She had 2 tiger paws. Now that's a game. It's no spat 3k. Oh. Well, it is. If you look at the history. Okay, I have to stop thinking about bets, but prepare for stopping my train, because now we are actually getting already closer. To Kirkcaldy. It's the first time that the 80 is repeated. Yeah, I want to start slowing down to 65. Yes, I'm focusing. I'm trying to focus. Otherwise it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Or a self-negating prophecy, depends on what you predict. So there should be a 65 limit soon. And it looks as if we have a lot of time actually to get to Kirkcaldy. The new SimRail update is cool. Is there a new one already out? Or are you talking about the one that we got in December? The one in December, yeah. That is really cool. I hope they can fix the problem with the Pendolino and the ETCS. Because it seems that it is not reading the valises properly in the area between Warszawa and Grodzisk Mazowiecki. To say some Polish names to prepare myself for the Scottish names.
Don't forget to take your belongings with you before you leave the train.
So I read what Perny said later, because I don't want to miss the stop in Kirkcaldy. Now I'm actually a bit early even. That allows me to get over my train a bit. It's always good to have an organized recycling center. Paper, paper. Plastic bottles, plastic bottles. Drink cans, general waste, general waste. Drink cans. I wonder if this is a touch to add more realism. There's also a problem when dispatching. The keybinds work when typing to a text box, so you can't really put numbers. Oh yeah, this is what Lofty already mentioned on the Discord, I think. Mentioning ETCS as Spectre in a Train Sim World stream would be considered bullying. Well, I won't comment to that. And it raised as well the bar for quality ETCS in the simulator is set quite high for DTG. And Bernie says you can put drink cans in a trash can. Well, obviously it's quite complicated. I forget my DRA like always. Inspector says, well, Luzern Sursee is not overwhelming. I would sell still the trash cans on his routes are nice. They are nice, even if they are confused. So, starting at Kirkcaldy with 65, increasing to 75, and then we will have to slow down to 65 and then 45 before we stop at Kinghorn. But before we actually do this, I will want to get through my presentation. And Perny says, Lutsensus, it was how I started really into I started really getting into railway simulator, so it is impossible to hate it. Oh, it's not to hate it, and well, to be fair, it was not created by DTG. What might be an excuse, and at the other side, at the same time, an accusation, because I always thought that complicated things like ETCS should be done by the boss himself. So, where is my presentation? Buggy and short route. Yeah, but they actually did the effort, and I still think that is a good thing that they tried. And it's not so bad a job, actually. And from nothing, what DTG did not dare to touch, they touched it, and obviously there are bugs in it, and you can't find the budget to fix it just for this little route. I can understand that, and I still think that they deserve some credit for even trying. So, now the presentation. Why is the Levenmouth Rail Link interesting, and what is the history of all that? And you can see here the peninsula of Fife in the middle of our map. There is Edinburgh, there is Glasgow, and then there is the peninsula of Fife between the Firth of Forth here, between Edinburgh and Fife, and on the top side is the Firth of Tay, the River Tay that comes in here, passing Dundee and going to Perth, what is obviously not the Perth that we more or less associate with Australia, but the Perth in Scotland. And I want to just check out how this little bit of Leven rail branch here's Leven, here's Kirkcaldy, where we just stopped, fits into the picture here. And for that I wanted to just check out again where our lines are that we have in the DLC here. We have that line connecting Edinburgh and then crossing the Forth Bridge, hugging the coast, Dalgety Bay. Then here's Aberdour, what we can't see on the map, Burnt Island, Kinghorn, and then Kirkcaldy. And the other branch, to make it a circle line, because it is sold as Fife Circle Line, it goes Rosyth, Dunfermline, and then here Cowdenbeath, Loch Gelly, Cardenden, and then here is Thornton for Glenrothes, before we get here to Thornton Junction, and then Mark Inch here. To see where what we don't have in the DLC anymore is the connecting line here to Dundee that crosses here the Tay Bridge, Luchars, Coupar, and at this point here we have a branch with the other line going to Perth. So this is the line connecting Dundee, Perth, and Edinburgh, and via Dunfermline also to Stirling here in this connection. And the little branch that was added that we just ran into the line is here from Leven to the Thornton Junction here. And this is the status that we have now, current status, and what we have in the DLC, the red and the pink one that was added later. The other lines unfortunately not, but just to see how it fits into the bigger picture. And I want to go back like almost 200 years, or at least 170, and check out what this looked like in 1850. In 1850 we had already lines that remind you of what we have today. We had a railway connecting Edinburgh, Perth, and Dundee, and also via Dunfermline to Stirling. And this was, at least in 1851, called the Edinburgh, Perth, and Dundee Railway for obvious reason. Before that, I think it was called the Edinburgh and Northern Railway, but as soon as we had the connection between those three cities, it was the Edinburgh, Perth, and Dundee Railway in 1851. And connecting Dunfermline with Stirling, it was a railway called the Stirling and Dunfermline Railway. So at that time, the railways actually had really self-explanatory names that made a lot of sense. And you can see that we did not have the bridges at the time. We did not have the Forth Bridge, and we did not have the Tay Bridge here. And how did the trains get across the water? And I think this is a fascinating thing they used ferries to actually get the rail cars on the steamers and ferry them across the water and get them on the track again on the other side. So you had steamers with railway tracks on them, and I don't know if they also did take locos. And CD Radar says, reminds me of something. Do you sometimes ferry your subway trains and run on and run off ferrying, right? It's much better than having to get all the parcels out of your carriage, put them in the boat, and then unload it on the other end and put them on the train again. The fourth bridge of Fife. This cuts like a good deal of maths. The fourth bridge of Fife. Yeah, it's actually a third bridge across the firth of Forth. If you count the two road bridges for that, right? But I find this a super interesting idea to get the rail cars on a steamer and then unload it on the other end again. So probably you cannot have the whole train on the steamer, because then you should have a very, very long ship, or a very, very or quite short train. At least this is what they did. They went from Edinburgh more or less to the north to a harbour, got the cars on a ship, and then ferried them to Burnt Island here. So this thing with the fourth bridge was not a thing at the time, and the same thing here at the Tay. You had to ferry them across because you did not have a bridge across the river Tay. And at that time there was a quite small independent railway company connecting Leuchars with St Andrews, the St Andrews Railway. And then already people at Leven wanted to have the connection to that. And CD Radar says, JD Redash company is doing this over the ocean. Interesting. Rail cars on the boat over the ocean and out on the other side. Why not? I have actually never researched where it is done still nowadays. But obviously going across the bridge is faster than that. Going back to the development here, people at Leven wanted to have a connection, and they created their own company for that. At first, the services were run by the Edinburgh, Perth and Dundee Railway, but they didn't want to do it, and there was some bickering because the track at the beginning was poorly built. So they ran their own independent railway company, the Leven Railway, that was starting in service from what I have found out in the sources that I've seen in 1854. And because that was so nice, they also expanded the line to this city here that I really have difficulties to translate from how it is written to, or how it is spelled to how it is pronounced. If you listen to what it is supposed to be pronounced, you get something between King Conquer or Kirkcaldy to Kinghorn. So if anyone knows how this is actually pronounced, probably just let me listen to that. It's hard to put it in the comments, I guess. But this is at any rate where the East of Fife Railway took people in 1857. And so they started to get a bit of a circle around the peninsula of Fife here along the coast. In 1861, they merged those two railway lines to the Leven and East of Fife Railway, and the Edinburgh, Perth and Dundee Railway was swallowed by the bigger player in the area, the North British Railway, the NBR, that had other railway lines, and they swallowed this Edinburgh, Perth and Dundee Railway in 1862. In 1863, then the line was expanded to Anstruther. And at the same time, the Stirling, or more or less the same time, 65, the Stirling and Dundee Railway was swallowed by Edinburgh and Glasgow Railway. And at this, almost at the same time here, according to the sources that I have found, this railway was swallowed also by the North British Railway. So the North British Railway was at that time the big player here in the area. In 1877, it also swallowed the Leven and East. of Fife Railway and the Little St Andrews Railway. So now everything that we have here is North British Railway run, still with the ferries in between. And there was again a small railway company that started building this little connection here, and this is important for what we have today, because that is the connection between Dunfermline and Inverkeithing, more or less, that closes our circle that we have here from where you get on land again after the fourth bridge, then Dalgety Bay, Aberdour, Burnt Island, and to make it a circle you had the connection between Dunfermline and Queensferry here, and that was the Dunfermline and Queensferry Railway that started service in 1877 from what you can read, but at this time it had already been swallowed by the North British Railway 2 years before. This is a bit unclear actually how this happened, but this is as it seems, so that it started out the independent railway company, was swallowed, and then finished the connection here. And then there was the time with the bridges. First, the first tie bridge in 1878. Why the first tie bridge? Why did they need two tie bridges? Because the first tie bridge collapsed at Christmas Day, I think 1 year later in 1879, quite spectacularly, with a train on top of it, and the train crashing into the River Tay, and obviously everyone on the train was killed. Big tragedy. It is a thing that I can remember as a child when I was at school. I had to learn a poem by the German writer Theodor Fontane. I don't know if you remember that too, Spectre. It's the Brücke am Tay, where this disaster was put into a poem, making use of the witches of Macbeth, like when shall we three meet again in thunder, lightning, or in rain. Yeah, that definitely rings a bell, says Spectre. Yeah, and that was that bridge that collapsed in 1879, and so they had to build a new one. And that took some time, and in 1887 you had then a bridge here so that you did not need to take the ferry anymore. And more or less at around the same time, 1877, so in between that here, no, not in 1877, but then there was a line connecting Anstruther and St Andrews in 1887, yeah, around the same time as the second tie bridge was finished. So the Anstruther and St Andrews Railway started out as an independent railway, at first to close the cycle here. Tant ist das Gebilde von Menschenhand. Yeah, that is the end, what you have in that poem in the German version. This is what the three witches say, that in the end, look at what they have done and think, well, that was our good deed for the day, and now we will target the next one. And then they say, Tant ist das Gebilde von Menschenhand. And the first bridge was actually Tant, and the second one not so much, because it is still up and running now. And not so the Anstruther and St Andrews Railway, but at 1887 it was opened and closed, this circle around the Outer Peninsula in Fife. And this was also called the Fife Coast Railway then, because it was hugging the coast of the Fife Peninsula. And a bit later, the fourth bridge, this really fabulous, enormous, grand bridge across the Firth of Forth in 1890, it was finished, and at the same time by North British Railway, also connected to the line here, so that you can go from Dalgety Bay via Aberdour to Burnt Island, and more or less also connecting it to Dunfermline via the tracks of the Dunfermline and Queensferry Railway. At Queensferry North, if you look in the DLC, you can also see one line that is going from Inverkeithing, I guess, down into the bay area that is not used anymore, and there's a gate in front of it. I wonder if this is some old track connecting with that. At any rate, that was 1890, and then we had our Circle Line here, more or less as we have it today. In 1897, then the Anstruther and St Andrews Railway was swallowed by the North British Railway, and then it was more or less all consolidated. Consolidation then beat the North British Railway, and it was consolidated itself and swallowed by the London and North Eastern Railway, the LNER, the historic one that we already have talked about last week when we talked about the history of British Rail and British Railways. It was one of the big four that was then created, amalgamated, consolidated, grouped in the Grouping Act of 21 Railway Act of 21 and 23 it was done then, or was it also the Act in 23, I don't recall anymore. At least at this time, couple of years after the ending of World War One, we had this grouping of British railway lines where we had the big four railways, the LNER, the London and North Eastern Railway, the London, Midland and Scottish. Interesting enough, this was not part of the London, Midland and Scottish, but of the London and North Eastern Railway, and obviously not of the Southern and not the Great Western. Then came nationalisation in 1948. It got part of British Railways, now the Scottish region. One of the things where we did not have the dividing lines between the big four translated into the regions. So this was drawn to the Scottish part. And then came the Beeching area, and Mr. Beeching, Sir Beeching, Lord Beeching, I think it was, with his axe, well, cut this, and in 1965 all passenger services along this line were cut, and in 1966 also the freight services that ran from Leven to Crail on, and then the Fife Coast Railway was no more. Still the Leuchars St Andrews connection that still exists, and at this time the connection to Leven also existed still, but not for long, because in 1969 passenger services were stopped to Leven, and you can see two numbers, 1999. In those 30 years after 1969 we had some freight services running there, and this was more or less the status that you can still find in the sectional appendix for 2023 that I wanted to present you with. And here around in module 11, Scots 11, you can see it here in the map. It is connecting Edinburgh Waverley, and then you can see here Kirkcaldy, and then here is Thornton Junction, and this is the Scottish 0177 is the branch that goes to Leven. It does not say 11 anymore because it is only here to connect the Methyl power station and to get coal, especially to Methyl power station. And if you look at it in the diagrams for Scottish 177, here it was, I already ran over it, 78, 77, you can only find this here. This is Thornton Junction, North Junction, and then we only have this remainder of a line connecting to Methyl Power Station, OOU. I tried to find out, I did not find any legend explaining it in the sectional appendix. Out of use, maybe OT, one train. So line out of use beyond this point here, number one. So this line is no longer in use as it seems in 2023. Cameron Bridge, Kirk Island East notice board, and you can find here yard working, and still a line, still in the sectional appendix, but not used in 2023, and that is more or less the status that we had starting in 69, and in 99 then even the freight trains did not operate anymore. What did happen then? Yeah, so this was taken out of the picture as well, and then there was no Fife Coast Railway anymore. Then came privatization. Railtrack was the new owner of all that stuff that belonged to British Railway before. In 2001, the Network Rail, and then in the Network Rail era still, in 2024, it was reinstated, the Levenmouth Rail Link in 2024. And if you look at the sectional appendix of 2024, the Scottish 177 line looks different now. Yep. It's always so fast as soon as you get to something else. Yeah, and this is what it looks now. This is what we just ran into. Here is the connector to the main line at Thornton North Junction. This is the part where we had to go on a single track line, and then both lines here. You can see the 45 that we ran into that direction. Other direction it is 30. Here is the crossover that we have seen. Here's Cameron Bridge Station, and then here's Leven. Lockout device for traffic should be there on the platform. I haven't been able to find that in the game, and I'm also not totally sure how this is used. Might be some terminal located there so that you can actually, as a driver, lock out other trains when your train is in there, but I have not found any procedural instructions for that. See local instructions for detail of lockout device, and I don't have the local instructions, unfortunately, for the Levenmouth Rail Link. Otherwise, I would have told you, obviously. So that was that. That was... no, before I close the section appendix, if you ever wondered why with your class 170 you can run by HST limits for high-speed trains, not actually being a high-speed train with your 170, the thing is, no, this is too difficult to find. Let's find 170. Somewhere I found it, that if you want to know what those abbreviations on the speed boards actually mean, what kind of vehicles are, why do I not find it anymore? Then you have to look it up in the sectional appendix, and then you can find a lot of information to your vehicles. And I think I found it, or maybe was it the old one? Interesting, it is not in the new sectional appendix anymore, but in the old one I found it. There is actually two of them. Here, this is what I wanted to show you. Permissible speeds and enhanced permissible speeds. And here you can read the letters HST mean all those vehicle classes, and they include the 170. Why it is not in the newer sectional appendix, I don't know. At least in the older sectional appendix, you can find it here that HST limits also apply to the 170, so we can pat Rivet on the shoulders, and this was done correctly. PDF. And I can turn off the presentation. close all tabs and go back to train running. We're approaching Kinghorn. Well, still leaving Kirkcaldy area, but next station is Kinghorn. Yeah, I don't know if this is boring for you, but I am always interested in getting the bigger picture and seeing how all this fits together, geography-wise, and also with the historical background. It's actually interesting to see how big an effort it is to reopen such a small portion of a railroad that has existed in the past. CD Radar says, if this is boring to you, just don't watch it. Yeah, totally. Totally. Or fall asleep and just wake up again. Well, it always teaches you that the world is so great and fascinating in so many places, and the most stupid thing that you can do is to think that only one place, only where you live and only what you know is the only thing that works and what is reasonable and beautiful, and that is, well, and this is the seaside. We should get an AWS warning for a further reduction to 45 when running into Kinghorn.
We'll soon arrive at Kinghorn. Don't forget to take your belongings with you before you leave the train.
It's quite a famous Scottish rugby player with that name, Kinghorn, right? Wonder if there is any connection. And we are already quite late-ish. And I'm already braking hard and slowing down. Reluctantly. So train, go. CD says, hey, this is funny. Sue sent me a picture of the wrong animal in my adoption package. So what animal did you adopt and what did they send you? I would guess you adopted a wolf. Signal. Platform. Doors are closed. Signal. Action. When leaving Kinghorn into this direction, in this direction, always be prepared that there is another limit to 30 before we can put the foot on the floor again. 30 for this tunnel here. At least it works that I wanted to have the sun setting in front of us. This part works out well. I've been adopting maned wolves for the 3rd year now, and the first picture was printed incorrectly, the second was fine, and now a picture of a Eurasian wolf has arrived. At least it's a very nice picture anyway. Aha. Yeah, my guess was right, you adopted a wolf. Burnt Island. Here the line speed does not increase to 75, it stays at 65 if I'm not mistaken. And then for Burnt Island we have to slow down to 50 and then 40. As much as my route knowledge goes. Start braking at the beginning of that curve. It's a beautiful scenery here, right? Cemetery, shoreline, the beginning of the curve. AWS magnet, there will be a signal, and then when we're getting into Burnt Island there will be a limit to 50 further on. But not so much further on, you're always surprised how fast it comes in. Somewhere here it should be.
We'll soon arrive at Burnt Island.
And here we are, Burnt.
Don't forget to take your belongings with you before you leave the train.
Here's the 40. For a second I thought there was already a train on my track, but it was on the other side, obviously. And now check out the times. It's 41:30. That we are supposed to arrive. And it is 42:0. So we have a spacing of 30 seconds, and we started loading passengers at 42:20. But it seems that here it works now. On the one that I had in the journey mode, it took 60 seconds. Now it is 30 seconds. Interesting. And that, if you look at it, this is one of the stations where you want to use your hill start brake so that you don't roll backwards. They could have at least added an announcement to the S-Bahns or the underground, yeah, that's true. But the announcements, don't know, did anyone buy more recent DLCs where you find the announcements on German trains as well? Announcements has been a thing that you find in Rivet DLCs that started with the Edinburgh Glasgow, where you can play along. You can play them by clicking on your computer screens, and on the Bernina line you had a lot of announcements, and now here you have the automatic announcements. But I always associated this more with Rivet than with DTG or any other content creator. So Aberdour, we are accelerating to 75 at a certain point here, and then slow down directly to 55 and then 50 before we get to Aberdour. Beautiful lighting effects, I must say. Here was the 75. But before we can actually celebrate that we are getting closer to the 75, we already have to prepare for slowing down. We will have one piece of track is quite straight and quite long, and then we are starting to going into a curve and have to prepare to slow down to 55 already. I think it is quite a good idea here to wait a bit in power 1 notch, so that the oil can stay in the hydrokinetic transmission until the diesel engines have revved down and we don't fire into neutral. Here's the 55 going uphill, so we will lose momentum if we don't accelerate a bit. And now for Aberdour. Aberdour.
We'll soon arrive at Aberdour. Don't forget to take your belongings with you before you leave the train.
Aberdour is also one of the stations where you want to use the hill start brake, otherwise you roll backwards quite easily. Setting the reverser to neutral sometimes coincides with the object animation. Then you don't get your reverser move to neutral. No signal here. Platform. Hill start. And no rolling backwards. Do train drivers, asks Superport, in locomotives with passenger coaches hear the announcements made by the train conductor in the driver's cab in real life? Well, you ask me stuff. I think this depends on the settings of the communication system in the trains. Typically you have a communication system where you can select where you want to have the announcement being played if you want to talk to the train, if you want to talk to the outside, if you want to talk to the other cab. And I guess the conductor, if he uses one of the devices on the train, would have to select to whom he wants to talk. And whether this is played in the cab as well. I somehow doubted that this would be a helpful setting, because why would the driver be interested in all the connecting trains informations? Now we're aiming for Dalgety Bay. There is a station where we stop without a speed restriction, so we stop out of the 75.
We'll soon arrive at Dalgety Bay. Don't forget to take your belongings with you before you leave the train.
Dalgety Bay, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of the stations where you just run through on some of the services. Superposers, I'm just wondering if it would be realistic if there were announcements for all trains, routes and trains in the world. Yeah, I doubt that this would be actually realistic for locomotive hauled trains, as you say. But on the S-Bahn trains, on the EMUs, DMUs, I think the drivers can hear it through the wall. I found that on these overpasses, the pedestrians, the passengers sometimes tend to fall off and on the tracks. In this DLC, it did not happen today. I've seen it happen quite a couple of times. So Inverkeithing is next. You don't need to accelerate too happily, because as soon as we're getting into the junction area we have to slow down already again. And we have to slow down first to 50 and then to 40. Here's the 50 incoming.
We'll soon arrive at Inverkeithing. Don't forget to take your belongings with you before you leave.
Always feels quite harsh here, running around this corner on the switch. And then the 40 is quite soon. Here already, not at the platform, but already here. That is the junction for the other part of the circle, the line that goes to Rosyth in Dunfermline. And here you see a splitting banner repeater, even though the line to the left might not actually be a line anymore. I did not check this out in the... So, and why did my train not stop here now? Are we going so hard downhill here? Does not look like it. At any rate. Here, the part to the left is this overgrown line going to wherever I think it is going down into the lower parts of the bay area. There might actually be... I think I've read something about a tunnel that had been sealed in 2018 or something. It's going to Hogwarts. Yes, it looks a bit like it. Hogwarts is in Scotland, right? And you start at King's Cross, so you would go probably along the east, the East Coast main line. We're actually stopping at North Queensferry. Not many services do, this one does. At the moment we're in the 65 limit, but we won't be able to accelerate to 65 because here at those inner bay bridges we will get a limit to 60. And then later on to 50, but we will have to stop at North Queensferry before we get to the 50 limit. Here should be a limit to 60 when entering this bridge, or when exiting it. Don't remember properly. In the bay. Here, it's one of those signs that are hard to read. Aha. Paul found out that the branch to the left was the Rosyth Royal Dockyard branch. So, then it probably goes to the lower part of the inner bay to get to some
Don't forget to take your
Royal
belongings with
Dock
you before you leave
Yard.
the train.
It looked so red. For a second I almost got jump scared. Can't really move the camera around so that I can find out where this line actually leads to. Signal platform. Signal action. And now the magnificent Firth of Forth and the magnificent Forth Bridge. It's interesting that those bridges, without the connotation rail, is the rail bridge, where you have to name it the Forth Road Bridge. If you're talking about the bridge for the cars. Raven's Lofty says this is a good time to come back. It's always a good time to come back. So they are completely right. For the magnificent view, the setting sun on the Forth Bridge. Come on, it's the Firth of Forth Bridge. And you want a drive-by. And you get a drive-by. And I get docked for speeding. And we have to stop at Dalmeny.
We'll soon arrive at Dalmeny. Don't forget to take your belongings with you before you leave the train.
Yes, don't forget to take your belongings with you before you leave the stream. Yes, this is an impressive edifice. Speed limit increases to 90 here. But instead of accelerating to 90, we have to stop here at Dalmeny. That's better. Signal does not exist. And now the fast part to Edinburgh Gateway, passing Edinburgh Airport to the right. My second number 3 camera was moved for whatever reasons. Here it increases to 100 even, but we won't make it to 100, I'm afraid. I've always wondered when you switch from day driving to night driving setup with your lights, if you do that while running in the train, if you do that when at the station, if that is already dark enough to use night running, or if you would wait until it is actually dark. All I have read about this is that it is mostly the discretion of the drivers. So at the beginning of this bend, we're starting to slow down. Soon there will be the reduction to 90. What is not our problem because we never went beyond the 90. But we also have to slow down for the stop at Edinburgh Gateway. Here's the 90. And here's the announcement.
We'll soon arrive at Edinburgh Gateway. Don't forget to take your belongings with you before you leave the train.
Yes, I'm still there. A lot of trains actually coming from the other direction. Almost at every station. Traffic from the opposing side. Edinburgh Gateway. It's actually quite an impressive station here with a lot of glass. Reminds me of St. Pancras. So we don't stop at South Gyle. We just pass through the junction and then stop at Haymarket. There will be a 75 limit when running across the junction, but usually it's not a thing because we will probably not be faster than that anyway. It should be the 75. A bit overgrown. Should cut the grass and bushes in front of the sign. Or give it a higher staff. Or mast. Or post. Doesn't really matter for us because... No, we can accelerate to 90. We can just go full throttle across the bend. Now I switch to night lighting. For the fun of it. Closing in on Murrayfield. And be prepared that you don't get an AWS warning, even though you get a quite harsh slowdown for 90 to 50 in line speed limit at the end of this area with the shits. One shit area. Second shit area. Sometimes you can find... And here's the 50. And then don't celebrate that you made the 50, because then you have to slow down to 35 and stop at Haymarket. Ooh, now we're getting
We'll
there.
soon arrive at Haymarket. Don't forget to take your belongings with you before you leave the train.
That was a weird sound, wasn't it? And actually got our time back very early here in Haymarket. Crept back on the timetable. Stop marker coming in. In case you didn't know where you are, Haymarket. Signal platform. Signal. Go. Lofty says, I still can't wait for you to play a Welsh line and struggled. Yeah, I will definitely struggle with Welsh names. Kirkcaldy was hard enough today. And the Tadami line, well... with the Japanese names, it will be even harder because... Well, we will see. Next thing that will give us some new stuff to play with in that context is Zwolle Groningen. Dan kunnen we een stream in het Nederlands maken. I always have to look at the castle when passing here. Dat klopt, met de koplopertrein. So Spectre speaks Dutch. That is interesting. The Koploper. That is this intercity train that actually has like a tunnel in the locomotive so that people can pass below the driving cap into the train that is coupled at this end. But as far as I know, they have been all closed. Rondje om de kerk. So everyone speaks Dutch, so we can have the stream in Dutch. That is cool. For now, it's the bagpipes in Edinburgh Waverley. What is a beautiful station in real life, and what is a beautiful station here in the game as well. So close down the cap here. Hij vindt het geweldig. He says he finds it great. Wij vinden dat allemaal geweldig. En ik vind dit station hier geweldig. Tijgerwegen. Extreem Tijgerwegen. Tijgerlandse spoorwegen. Prediction result is no. Yes, it was hard actually to run into a red light because there was no red light. Look at that. I always loved this road here that just runs into the lower level of the station. You cannot walk there, I'm afraid. So the last thing that I can... And look at this. This is actually quite cool that you have a working tableau of that with all the trains. Well, obviously not all of them. Not all of those PIS screens showing something valid. But that adds to immersion. And this adds to the merits of Rivet. Well, let's close the doors and use the guard panels for that. There is no guard panel here. No. At this poor people, why are you still here? You're waiting for the train running into the opposite direction, probably. Guard panel. Door active. And close. And that's it. Yeah. What did I miss here? What did I miss here? Interesting. Oh yeah, that is what I missed. Here I started too fast after Cameron Bridge, as it seems. And here I dipped into, yeah, that is what I announced, but here I was totally unbeknownst. There's an actual pastry shop behind you at Edinburgh Waverley, and next time we need to be more sophisticated for the betting question. Yes, this will be a more sophisticated question, I am sure. But thank you so much for doing this, CD Raider, and adding to the immersion here in the stream. Well, guys, I think that's it. That was the Leven branch investigation with some lore and history about the railway lines in Fife. It would be great if we actually could manage to see that in real life sometime. En spreekt het bedankt voor de stream, Tiger. Tot ziens. Tot ziens, guys. Bedankt voor al dat steunen, for the support. And thanks for the little history lessons and Super Bowl and the stream. Thanks, guys. And see you soon. Be nice and have a nice time. Dankjewel. Yes, dankjewel. Bye bye. Jekuyi. Yes, Jekuyi went to this too. And Dewey for bye bye.